Hello and welcome to another video. So today I'm going to cover the cost of living in Spain in 2025. How much does it cost us as a family to live on the Costa del Sol? So I'm going to break it all into sections. I'm going to tell you exactly how much that we spend out every month, what we spend out on, and then at the end of the video I'm also going to compare it to the equivalent of what we would have been paying in the UK. So let's discuss rent first. That's probably going to be your biggest outlay, as it is with us. Now, Costa del Sol, where we live, that's going to be more expensive. And also Barcelona, Madrid, and southern Spain, that is going to be, you're going to pay more of a premium to live there. Northern Spain is, it's really cheap. Mid-Spain can be really cheap. Even sort of a 20-minute drive from the coast, you can go cheap. But if you're going to be living sort of beachside and within walking distance to the town and the beach, then you are going to pay a premium price for that. So the house we're living in at the minute is a 4-bedroom townhouse, and we're paying €2,000 a month, which is about £1,700. Now, if we picked this house up and moved it into one of the Gulf villages, which is about a 10-minute drive away, and again, beautiful, absolutely beautiful, but you've got to drive. That's the thing. €1,500. So you can drop €400 or €500 by moving slightly out. Manilva with Duquesa, not far, 15 minutes down the road. Again, this property further down that way, you're going to save yourself 20%. So depending on where you decide to live, it is going to be dependent. So this house we're living in, we can get to the local beach within 10 minutes. We can get into town within 15 minutes. The kids can walk to school, or the elder two. So it's convenient for us. If we lived further out, we could get a cheaper property, but it would be inconvenient because we'd have to drive everywhere. So that's something that you need to consider. Okay, so next up is groceries and shopping. So how much do we spend per week on our weekly shop? So we currently shop at Mercadona, which is a local supermarket just up the road. Fresh fruit, veg, fish, that's all seems to be a lot cheaper than the UK, and I would probably say that we do spend less on our shopping than we did in the UK. So remember, we're a family of 6, and our eldest 2 eat like adults, and even the younger 2, we do buy a lot of food. So our weekly shop is around about €250. So that's what we spend as a bulk, and then we normally do a top-up shop of about €50, 3 or 4 days later before we do a big shop again. So I would estimate that we spend around about €300 a week on food shopping, and that includes cleaning products as well, so toilet roll, if you need a deodorant, toothpaste, all the household sort of stuff, that's all included in that price. Also, if you want a budget, then you can spend a lot less, so you don't need to necessarily shop in supermarkets. Most of the towns all the way along the Costa del Sol will have local merchants selling fresh local produce. So if we walked into Estepona, we would find local fishmongers, butchers, fresh fruit and veg. You've also got plenty of markets that pop up that you can buy fresh produce in as well. And you're probably going to be spending sort of 20 to 30% less if you shop around for the produce rather than going to a supermarket. So that's also something to consider if you're on a budget or you like to shop local. So overall, I would say that we spend around about €1,200 a month on our food shopping, which I think is pretty reasonable for a family of 6. Okay, so next up is utility bills. So how much are our household bills per month? Now, one thing I want to mention before I start discussing the prices is most properties in Spain don't have gas. They heat their water through hot water cylinders. There's no central heating. Most people have if they do need a bit of heat, they can normally get them from the air conditioning units, or they have like a pellet fire in the winter. It does get a bit cold. But probably 8 times out of 10, the properties in Spain are going to be all electric, and that's just something to consider. So basically what I'm saying is that in the UK, you're going to have quite a large gas bill and an electric bill, whereas in Spain, it's going to be more of just an electric bill. So, whatever you're spending as a whole of those two in the UK, you need to put into your electric, because you are going to pay a bit more. Okay, so in terms of price for electric, we pay about €350 a month for our electric, which I think is pretty reasonable. I think that's really good. Because we have the air conditioning on in the summer, we've got a pool outside, so we have a pool pump on. It's not heated, so we haven't got a heater on there. And obviously all the hot water. So yeah, about $350 a month. And again, we're a household of 6. A couple of showers a day, most of us. So yeah, I think that's pretty good for electric. Water rates, €45 a month. So again, pretty reasonable, probably cheaper than the UK, can't remember offhand. High speed internet, so we've got 5G, we've got booster boxes, we've got an office in the basement, and we've got 2-3 floors up. So the main box doesn't get to all the floors and downstairs, so we've got 3 boxes, super fast Wi-Fi, and that's about €35 a month. But if you were just looking for basics, then obviously you can get it for sort of €15-20 a month, which again is really cheap. So I would say all in all, our utility bills a month are around about €450. Okay, so before we finish up on utility bills, I just want to mention community fees. This is something that's quite often overlooked because it's, most people don't actually realise they may have to pay them. Now, if you're renting a property, normally 9 times out of 10, your landlord covers the community fees in your rent. Everywhere that we've rented, that's always been the case. I do know somebody that has to pay their community fees and they rent, so it's definitely worth checking. And also, if you come to buy a property, you are going to be liable for 100% of the community fees, so that's something to consider as well. So what are community fees? So in the UK, they're not as much heard of unless you're in a big city like London. And what they are is if you're in a communal block, so you share facilities like hallways, entrance foyers, and maybe a lift, that's all got to be paid for. It's all maintenance costs. So they will, you'll normally have a president, the same as what you'll have here, and they will add up what the maintenance costs are per year, and then they divide it by the amount of properties. So if there's 20 apartments, then they'll divide the yearly maintenance costs by 20, and then everybody pays a percentage. So here in Spain, it is a little bit different because there are so many communities and urbanisations because of the weather. In the UK, you don't need a pool, most of the year, but here, a lot of communities have a shared pool. So that's all got to be paid for, and also they also share gardens. So quite often they'll either have a part-time gardener or you can have a team of gardeners. It depends on the size of the urbanisation that you live on. So a basic cost, if you're going to be sort of in town and you're just in a concrete block apartment, all you're doing is paying for a cleaner to come in a couple of times a week, and if it's got a lift maintenance. So maybe 60 to 70 euros a month. That's just a rough estimate. If you're in a house on an urbanisation with 30 or 40 other houses that share a big pool, have communal grounds, some have tennis courts, it all depends on how much work there is on the upkeep of the grounds. You could be paying over €300 a month. That's a lot of money. Okay, so as I said, most of all community fees are all covered in your rental, but if you come to buy a property, then you will be liable to pay all of it. So always ask up landlord or your letting agent, how much am I liable for community fees and how much are they? Okay, so on to healthcare. Now, the Spanish have a very similar system to the NHS in the UK, so you can use local hospitals and doctors. The drawback to that is that they're all Spanish speaking, so you will need to have a good level of Spanish to be able to communicate, to book your appointments, and also the appointments may be longer, the waiting time, similar to what they are in the UK. And this is the reason that majority of people that first move here will go down the route of private healthcare. So with private healthcare, you're going to get English speaking clinics and hospitals, first class facilities, and you're going to get quick appointments as well. So it's a really competitive market at the minute. You've got Sanitas and Mapfre are the 2 biggest providers out here. We're currently with Sanitas. We pay about €50 a month each, me and my wife. It's cheaper for the kids, but it's definitely worth shopping around. And as I say, until you've learned Spanish, or as I say, if you find it more convenient, then yeah, private healthcare is definitely advisable. Okay, so let's talk about schools next. Now, schools are a bit of a grey area. It's a question that comes up a lot, and it's something that I'm currently working on. I'm going to do a completely separate video on local schools. So I'm going to talk about local Spanish schools and also international and private schools as well. So that will be coming soon. So local Spanish primary and secondary schools are free, which is what we've done with our children. We put them into primary school, they learn Spanish very quickly. We were undecided at the time, when we first moved here that was, if we were going to put them up into Spanish secondary or into an international or private school to further their education more towards the British curriculum rather than the Spanish one. But they've integrated so well into the Spanish community. Nearly all of their friends are Spanish. It didn't make sense to us to take them out then of the Spanish system and put them back into international. So we kept our kids in Spanish schools. So we've currently got 2 in Spanish primary and we've got 2 in Spanish secondary. But as I say, that's a big decision to make. Okay, so in terms of cost, local Spanish primary and secondary schools are free, just the same as they are in the UK, but they're set to the Spanish curriculum. Fully funded private schools like Queen's, which is an English grammar school, here in Estepona, they start from about €8,000 a year and it goes up to about 17,000 a year, depending on your child's age. So every year the cost goes up. And then we've got Sota Grande International School, which is renowned to be the best school the best international school in the area, and they start from 10,000 a year and it goes up to about 28,000 a year. A lot of money, yeah. So they're the sort of 3 options that you've got: free state schools, you've got sort of a mid-range private school, and then you've got a top-end international school. So look out for the video. I'm probably about 2 or 3 weeks away. I'm still looking to get a few interviews done, get a bit more information on that, because I want to cover all 3 of those sections and I want to give you as much information as I can. So that video will be coming soon. Okay, so on to vehicle costs. So I'm going to break down what we pay for our car, so insurance, servicing, all those sort of little bits and pieces. But you've got other options as well. So I just want to cover those 3. So I've written a few notes because it's quite a lot to go through. So the first one would be bringing your existing vehicle. So that's what we did. It was a right-hand drive. So when we came here, we had to import the car. So we had to hire a Hestor and they did all the paperwork for us. We then got Spanish plates and everything went through. Now for a standard car, you're going to be looking at about €2,000 to €2,500 as an import charge. Okay, and that's probably just for a small hatchback. The bigger the car, the more value, the higher the CO2 emissions, the more you're going to pay. So if you are thinking about bringing a vehicle over to import, then definitely get a quotation, because it could run into a lot more depending on the vehicle that you've got. You also need to consider headlight conversion as well, because in the UK obviously they're facing the other way, so you have to have those taken out and replaced with legal ones for the Spanish roads. So all in all, you're going to be looking at about €3,000 to €3,500 as a sort of base price, including all the costs to import a car from the UK into Spain. So that's the first option. The second option is leasing a car, which is what a lot of people do. Now, the cheapest option is to go through local Spanish banks. They're where you're going to get cheap long-term car rentals. The problem is that when you first move to Spain, you're probably not going to have that option. Even if you open a bank account relatively quickly, they like to see probably 6 months worth of activity before they'll consider you. Obviously, that's worth checking out. I'm not exactly sure, but that's what I've read up on and the feedback that I've had. So the other option is to look for other companies. You've got something like Enterprise, which is again in the UK, probably all over the world. You are going to pay more money. I mean, we got a quote for about €800 a month for a 7-seater when we first moved here, which that's a lot of money. So a company like Enterprise, brilliant, but you're going to pay, quite a bit more. Now, depending on where you decide to settle, for instance, Estepona as a example, up on the local polygono, we've got Purple Cars. Now, part of their they do car repairs, but part of their business is also car rentals. So they don't just rent by the day; they also do long terms. And the last time I looked, I think like a small hatchback was about €400 a month, which included the insurance and all the bits and pieces for it. And obviously the bigger car, the more expensive it's going to get. There's also quite a few other car rentals around. You've got Bruno's, which is over in Manilva, in Duquesa, in the port there. And they rent all new cars. You're going to pay probably average what you pay in the UK for a day, right? And it's £35–40 a day. You're probably going to be looking at similar costs. They also have a side business, as far as I know, that do like a cheaper car. So the cars are older, they've got a few dents in them. They're a lot cheaper to rent. So there are different sort of leasing companies around here. So it's definitely worth checking out if you decide to lease a car. But as I say, the cheapest prices you get are going to be through banks. So open up a bank account as soon as you can. Get money in and out to show them that it's all flowing nicely, and then you'll be able to get finance through your bank for a car lease. And with those leases as well in Spain, everything's included in your lease, like full maintenance packages. They new tyres, servicing, it all comes in one price. So yeah, that's the road to go if you're looking at leasing. And the last option is buying a vehicle outright. Now, one thing I will mention about buying a vehicle for cash in Spain is that the second-hand car market is more expensive than the UK market. Now, the reason for that, or what I've been told, is that the Spanish keep hold of their second-hand cars for a lot longer than they do in the UK. So in the UK, people get 2 or 3 year leases, sometimes just a year's lease, so there's lots of new cars on the road. It keeps prices keen. In Spain, there's a lot less second-hand cars available, which keeps the prices up. Now, our car, when we bought it, cost us €12,000. As I say, it was second-hand. The UK equivalent would have cost us €10,000. So it was about €2,000 different. So there is definitely, it is definitely more expensive to buy outright a second-hand vehicle. But again, if you maintain it, when you come to sell it, again, you're going to get your money back for it. It's just more expensive, obviously, when you buy, but that's just something to mention. So I mentioned that we owned our car privately, so we're liable for all of the costs. Now, we were quite surprised by how cheap it was here. So to start with, the fuel is around about 20 to 30 cents a litre cheaper here in Spain than it is in the UK. Obviously, it does go up and down, but it is definitely cheaper. Car insurance was a massive surprise, it really was. And I think the biggest bonus with car insurance in Spain is it comes with basic breakdown cover as standard. Okay, you can't not get it, it just comes with your insurance, which you don't often get in the UK, you've got to buy it separately. Now, what that covers you for is around about 50 kilometres from your home. So if you were to break down anywhere within a 50-kilometre radius of your home, then a brewer comes and picks you up, takes you home, or takes you to the nearest garage to be repaired. And that all comes with your insurance. Now, not only do you get that, but the insurance is a lot cheaper. We were paying a lot of money back in the UK for our insurance. Now, as I said, I mentioned we've got a 7-seater Citroen Picasso. So it's quite a big car. Now, last year we paid €450 fully comp for the car. And this year we paid €500. So it has gone up. But again, we're paying €500 for 2 of us, fully comp with basic breakdown cover. So I think that's really good. So in terms of servicing, we pay about €300 a year to have the car fully serviced, which is a mechanic that we use up on the Polygono. In terms of mechanical costs and maintenance, the cars had to go in at various times to have it done. Always been pretty reasonable. The guys are really good in there. The one thing I will say, which is a negative with Spain compared to the UK, is the time sometimes it takes to get your vehicle back. Now, in the UK, they have like parts vehicles. So if your vehicle's booked into the mechanic and there's a problem with it, then they just ring up the parts supplier. A little van comes along within an hour, a couple of hours. There's your part. They fit the part. You can pick your car up the next day. Doesn't happen here in Spain. Car parts quite often are ordered once your car goes in. They can then take sometimes a week, 2 weeks to come. I'm not even joking. One of our cars was off the road for 8 weeks because they couldn't locate back brakes for it, the calipers or whatever they were. So there does seem to be a slight issue with the transportation side of getting parts to the mechanics. So that is definitely something to bear in mind if you own your own vehicle and you're putting it into local mechanics. Okay, so let's talk about the cost of eating out. Now, if you're going to eat in tourist areas, then you're going to pay tourist prices. If you're living, like for instance, we're in Estepona, me and my wife go out for a meal every Friday night, and we spend sort of 35 euros, and that's for my wife and my daughter and myself. If we went down to the front and into one of the standard restaurants, then we'd be looking at 50-60 euros for the same sort of meal. So you can get cheap food here. The other thing I like about the Spanish towns is you still get traditional tapas bars. So what they are is they have the tapas on the counters, and you go in and you order a beer. So they pour you a beer, and then you choose which tapas you want, and they give you a little bowl of food. So you sit there with your bowl, with your tapas and your beer for a couple of euros. It's great value. So a lot of the locals will still use those tapas stroke bars, and they go in there at lunchtime and they'll order 2 or 3 tapas, have a couple of beers, 5 or 6 euros. So you can eat out really cheap. Also in Spain, their special is the menu of the day, and quite a few Spanish restaurants do this. You normally get the choice of 4 starters, so obviously meat and veggie options, 4 mains, and a pudding as well, so 4 puddings. So you normally get 4 of each one. You choose, each one comes out, the bill 12 to 14 euros, and that's a 3-course meal. So again, if you shop around, you can eat out really cheaply, but equally there are other restaurants where you can spend 30-40 euros on a bit of steak. So all dependent. As I say, we very rarely eat on the front anymore. We try somewhere different every single week that we go out on a Friday. And as I say, I think the most we've ever spent was 45 euros on the 3 of us, and the cheapest was about 23. So that just gives you some idea on what you can get for eating out. In terms of takeaways, there's quite a few noodle bars, kebab places. Again, they're all relatively cheap. We found the Indian. We love Indian. It's one of our favourite takeaways, but we tend not to get that here because, again, it can get very expensive. But there are local takeaways, again, which are relatively cheap. So you just have to have a look around and see what suits you. Okay, so our total cost of living per month. Now, I've broken this down into 4 columns. Now, the yellow here is obviously what we've been discussing right the way through. This first column, Spain, this is what we're currently paying at the minute. In blue is euros and in red is pounds. So it's currently costing us 4,500 euros per month, which is about £4,000. Now the equivalent, the next column is the UK. This is the equivalent of what we would be paying now, which is nearly 1,000 euros more, which is about £800. So we are definitely better off with what we were paying before we moved here. And the last column I've done as a family budget of, if you've got mum, dad, 2 kids. Obviously we're a family of 6 and we choose to live beachside. So we're paying more for our rent. We are paying a lot more for our food, utility bills. So what I've done is just done this on a budget. So if you're happy to move sort of 10-15 minutes drive back away from the beachside, then you can get somewhere for sort of 900 to 1,000 euros. Now I've put down 1,200, which is, for a decent little 3-bed townhouse or a 3-bedroom apartment on a nice urbanisation. As said, a bit further back. Food and household is obviously going to be cheaper. Utility bills will be cheaper. And if you choose to use local healthcare and put your kids through local schools. Vehicle costs, again, that seems pretty high, but that's including insurance and fuel and your servicing. And then eating out, you may choose to eat out maybe just once a month instead of every week. So as I say, if you want to come on a budget, then you can do that on under €3,000, which is about £2,600. I hope you found the video useful. If you haven't liked and subscribed, then please do. Got a new video coming out next week, so stay tuned and see you soon. Cheers.